Let me just share my screen. So you should all be seeing my screen. So welcome everyone, and many thanks for joining today's session. Just a heads up, a few of my colleagues are managing the session chat, so in case you have any questions, feel free to put them in there, and they'll be answered during the session. So when I was thinking of a title for today's session, I originally had in mind how to improve your candidate experience with a 360 view. But then I thought that actually implies that I know that you would need to improve your candidate experience. And how would I know? And unless you're measuring your candidate experience, how would you know? And that's exactly the thing. Whether you measure it or not, if you have open roles and you're hiring, you are by default providing a candidate experience. But the thing is, if you don't measure it, you have no idea whether this is a good experience or a bad experience. Today, I will share with you how you can create a positive candidate experience with a 360 view and why it matters. So you know a lot about your candidates. You know their names, their backgrounds, previous employers. You know their contact details and all of the stages that they've completed. You know how they did on their assessment, their interview feedback. But those are just facts, and they only tell one side of your story. So they don't tell anything about how the candidates enjoyed their experience with you, what parts they liked or disliked. And the only way to find out is by asking your candidates. By asking them, you'll get a full 360 view of your candidates. So today I will share with you what you will learn. I will explain who START is and what we do. And before I continue, I'm going to define two terms, one of them being candidate experience and the other one CNPS. And then I'm going to present 3 different challenges, which you are without a doubt experiencing, and of course, how you can address these challenges. And I will end the session with takeaways and a Q&A. So at the end of the session, you will know why candidate experience matters. We talk about it a lot, and you've probably heard this term a lot, but the why deserves a closer look. I'll also be sharing how you can start measuring your candidate experience and how you can fully automate the process, and that you don't need to be a data scientist to analyze your data. As a customer success manager, I have firsthand knowledge on best practices and proven candidate experience cases, which I also look forward to sharing with you today. START helps fast-growing companies of all sizes and industries to gain insights and gain control over their candidate experience. We offer native integrations with multiple applicant tracking systems, one of them being Lever, which help our customers fully automate and customize their candidate feedback process. My name is Sophie, and I'm Customer Success Manager at START. I'm based in Amsterdam, and I'm responsible for the full customer lifecycle, from onboarding to success. I love building strong relationships with my customers and help them meet their short and long-term candidate experience goals. So candidate experience is the core of successful recruiting and hiring. But what is it? It's the sum of all components in your candidate journey. From screening, from sourcing, your careers page, to the assessment, the interview process, and also the feedback that you provide your candidates with. Everything. Now, what defines a positive candidate experience? It's when candidates feel good about the way they were treated. In short, happy candidates. Another term that I'll be using throughout the session is CNPS. CNPS stands for Candidate Net Promoter Score, and it's a key metric that is used when measuring candidate experience. And it's measured by asking one single question. Based on your experience, how likely are you to recommend others to apply with your company? And candidates can score this question from 0 to 10, making it an 11-point skill question. Candidates who score between a 0 and 6 are called your detractors. They're unhappy candidates and unlikely to recommend you to others. Candidates who are scoring a 7 or 8 are called your passives, and they're pretty happy about the experience. And candidates scoring a 9 or a 10, those are called your promoters. They're very happy candidates, and they're very likely to recommend you to others. CNPS is calculated by subtracting the percentage of detractors from your percentage of promoters, giving you an absolute number ranging from a -100 to a +100. And of course, the higher, the better. So let's take a look at the first challenge, damaging your brand. In this data-driven era, you're most likely measuring key recruitment metrics, such as time to hire, offer acceptance rate, cost per hire, and maybe more. But those metrics only tell one side of your story, the not-so-human side. No matter what your hiring volume, recruitment is very much a human-to-human industry. And what do humans do best? We gossip. Not having any candidate experience data means that you have no idea how your candidates walk away from their experience with you and what they might be telling others. And how bad is that? Well, that's pretty bad. Let's take a look at some figures. So 64% of candidates who've had a negative experience will share that experience with friends, family, or on social media like Glassdoor or Reddit. And 27% of candidates who've had a negative experience will even go as far as actively discouraging others from applying. And a bad candidate experience is not only damaging your employer brand. You might have heard, treat your candidates just like your customers. But what if your candidate is your customer? 46% of candidates who've had a negative experience will take their business somewhere else. They will go to your competitor. So it's not only impacting your employer brand, but also your bottom line. The second challenge is that we now live in a world where talent hires the company. This means that you don't have the luxury to overlook candidate experience. And the only way to find out how you're doing is by going straight to the source, your candidates. A customer of mine, when they started measuring their candidate experience with us, they had many candidates who withdrew after the offer stage, but they had no idea why. But they did say it probably has something to do with the salary not being high enough. But we didn't know, so we set up a survey and we automated it to be sent to all candidates who withdrew after the offer stage. And what they saw is that it actually didn't have to do with the salary not being high enough. Candidates were saying that the interviewers were horrible. They were disengaged, on their phones, not really paying attention, or had their cameras turned off. The candidates did not feel taken seriously, so they chose to accept an offer somewhere else. So again, let's take a look at some figures. 63% of candidates will likely reject a job offer because of a bad candidate experience, while 87% of candidates will actually change their mind about a role or a company that they once doubted. So that means that the interview stage is a make or break event from both sides, your side and the candidate side. The third challenge is that you can't improve what you don't measure. The hiring process is made up of many different stages and have many different people involved. You've got your recruiters, your coordinators, and your interviewers, hiring managers. many events and contact moments that could influence your candidate experience. And you're as strong as your weakest link here. But in order to uncover what that is or who that is, you need data, as you cannot improve what you don't measure. A customer of mine, when they started off measuring candidate experience with us, they were on the smaller side. And they had a positive and very steady CNPS score. But as they started to scale and hire more people, they started to see their CNPS score slowly going down. And they had no idea why, because they hadn't changed any of their hiring processes. So they started slicing and dicing their data and looking at the CNPS score on individual recruiter level. And what they saw was that the new recruiters that were just added to their team were responsible for some of those lower scores. So it was telling them that the new recruiters actually needed more training before they were ready to work with candidates. And not only that, the new recruiters were also provided with direct candidate feedback. So they were able to learn on the job from day one on the job. So why should you address these challenges now? You're probably noticing that you're fishing from the same candidate pool as your competitors. And as the average number of days that top talent is on the market is only 10 days, that really poses a challenge. Expanding your TA team and hiring more recruiters is not the solution. You need to find a different way to win over top talent. And one element that can really influence your hiring and overall company success is the way you treat your candidates. So addressing these challenges and creating a positive candidate experience is a three-step approach. You first need to make sure that you ask the right questions, and then you're going to gather data via an automated process. And lastly, of course, you need to take action on what you've learned. So first up, you need to define the interview stages and audiences that you would like to include in your scope. So for example, do you want feedback already from candidates who are rejected after application? Or do you want to wait and only gather feedback after the assessment or after the interview? And regarding your audience, you might want to ask your rejected and hired candidates for feedback, but don't also forget about your withdrawn candidates, especially those who withdraw after the offer stage. Those are the candidates that you've invested most time and effort on. And they're a really important source of feedback when you want to understand what you could have done to prevent their withdrawal. Once you have the stages and audience defined, it's time to craft your survey questions. Here, I would recommend to ask questions that are specific to your unique hiring processes, so that you're ensured that you get that granular data that you're looking for. And for a high response rate, I would also recommend to customize and personalize the invitation text. With our integration with Lever, you're able to pull fields directly from Lever into your invitation text, which will populate with things like the department name, job name, recruiter name. Having that customized invitation text will really boost higher response rates. One important aspect to take into consideration is automating the feedback process. So when you automate it with, for example, the Lever integration, the setting up of the surveys is just a one-time thing only. So once that's set up, you can literally flip the switch and watch your feedback come in. Another important aspect is the timing of the surveys, which is sometimes overlooked. When you ask candidates for feedback while they're still in the process with you, you'll get very biased feedback. Candidates will say that everything was great and that they have nothing to add because they still want to work for you. So it's important to make sure that you schedule the surveys to be sent after the candidates have been notified of their rejection. And then it's time to measure. So important here is that you do not need to be a data scientist to analyze your data. Start offers a real-time dashboard, which updates automatically as soon as new responses come in. There you can compare your CNPS score with our benchmark. So all of our other customers who are measuring the same interview stages as you are. Filtering on industry or region or company size also allows you to really compare your results with your competitors. And then it's time to take action. So important here is not to only look at your overall CNPS score or your overall feedback, but to really segment on your results. So segmenting on department or on recruiter or on region, things like that. Segmenting your data will really allow you to make data-driven decisions and to uncover where things go well and what areas might need improvement. Another benefit of measuring candidate experience is that this gives you the opportunity to turn your detractors into promoters. To do so, you need to follow up on the feedback that you've received. And oftentimes, when you respond to feedback of your candidates feel heard and taken seriously, and they're less likely to also go to Glassdoor to leave the same feedback because they've already channeled their feedback directly with you. Start offers the opportunity to send messages to your candidates, even if they're anonymous. And one of my customers had some success with that. So one time she received feedback saying that a candidate was very disappointed that the customer used a CV screening tool. But this was not the case at all. The customer had actual humans screen a CV. So they reached out to the candidate about this misconception, and the candidate was really happy to learn this and said that they would be happy to reapply in the future. And you can also benefit from your high scores. So remember, I talked about the promoters, the candidates scoring a 9 or a 10. Those are happy candidates. So you would want those happy candidates to go to your Glassdoor page, right? So with Start, you can set up an automated thank you page that is only showed to your promoters with a link that directly links to your Glassdoor page. And don't forget about celebrating your successes. Your candidates will be saying some wonderful things about you. I have a few customers who organize things like Feedback Fridays, where they share positive candidate quotes and really recognize the recruiters who've done a good job, which really helps boost recruiter morale. So I hope by now you realize that you don't have the luxury to overlook candidate experience, and don't surrender in the war on talent. In just 3 simple steps, you can start measuring candidate experience and start taking control over your reputation. Many thanks for your time today in joining today's session. We also have a booth here at Lever Ascent. So in case you would like to learn more about Start or have a product demo, feel free to drop by. And now I'm very curious to hear if anyone has any questions. Just going to the chat. So I see one question here. Working closely with hiring managers to offer great candidate experience can be challenging. What are the best practices? Yeah, great question. It can be challenging, and it's something that I do hear from my customers. I think one of the best ways to find out what is going well and not so well in your internal processes is, again, going straight to the source, your hiring managers in this case. So we also offer the opportunity to automate hiring manager surveys. So that means that when candidates are hired, a hiring manager will receive a survey asking for their feedback on how they found the collaboration with the recruiters. So this will give the recruitment team direct feedback from the hiring managers in order to improve the internal processes. And another question, what is a good NPS score for rejected candidates? Yeah, good question. It's one that I hear a lot from my customers. So what we offer at Start is a different CMPS based on the interview stage. So you'll see that candidates who are rejected after application are usually the most unhappy because they always feel like they didn't really get a chance to, show them what they got and things like that. So that one is really hard to nail on the CMPS side of things. But a good CMPS score for rejected candidates, I would say anything above a 0. If you're above a 0, that means that you have more promoters than you do detractors, which I think is always a great thing to aim for. And Start publishes a CNPS benchmark report twice a year. So if you're curious to learn about our benchmark for each of the interview stages, feel free to head over to our Start booth so we can share that benchmark report with you. And another question, are you only integrated with Glassdoor? Yeah, so Glassdoor, it's not a full integration. So it's a link that you can add to the thank you page. But that link can be anything. So sometimes companies add different links to different review sites. It's completely up to you. And what if your hiring managers do not want to give feedback to rejected candidates? That really depends on your processes. I think feedback is important. If you're not able to give feedback, you will see that in your results. So I think it's always important if you know beforehand that you're working with hiring managers that won't be able to provide feedback. It's good to let the candidates know that so that they're not disappointed at the end. Because if I see one aspect that correlates the highest with the CNPS score, it's the feedback that is received. So one of my colleagues just added the benchmark report to the chat, so feel free to click on that link to download it. And another question on the 3 steps that you mentioned. So the 3 steps is asking the right questions, so crafting your surveys, then setting up your automatic feedback process. And we recommend to integrate your ATS with Start. So we offer a native integration with Lever, for example. And then the last step is taking action on what you've learned. Are there any more questions? Cool. So if that's it, then this recording will be shared later on. So in case you joined at the end, then you're still able to see the full presentation.
With Lever TRM's user-friendly interface and automated features, your team will hit the ground running and boost collaboration with cloud-based workflows. You can source new candidates and rediscover past talent fast. Integrate with job boards and import LinkedIn profiles in seconds. Better yet, eliminate hours of work with automated interview scheduling, feedback collection, email outreach, and more. Set yourself up for success in today's fast-moving talent landscape. Learn more about Lever TRM today. Need to fill your pipeline and engage more quality talent? Not a problem. Lever TRM's built-in candidate nurturing features make proactive sourcing and hiring for hard-to-fill positions simpler. Build candidate relationships at scale with personalized emails and automatic follow-ups. Get noticed by sending emails on behalf of executives to maximize response. Set yourself up for success in today's fast-moving talent landscape. Learn more about Lever TRM today. Lever TRM makes it easy to track strategic initiatives and measure team performance with actionable reporting insights. Quickly find the answers you need with customizable dashboards for your recruiting team. Create a range of reports for your executives, complete with data visualization. You can even spot hiring bias, set measurable DEI goals, and promote inclusivity with structured interview kits and candidate surveys. Set yourself up for success in today's fast-moving talent landscape. Learn more about Lever TRM today.